Hey, what's up and how's it going, MRBers? I'm so glad that you have took your time to spend with me right here today on the Mick Rock and Bolt Wrestling Review Show. I'm your co-host, Mike Mick Rock Wilson, and we just saw TNA Impact Wrestling from where? Orlando, Florida. The show kicked off when Kurt Angle came out and he gave his watered-down promo about Thanksgiving, what he's thankful for, etc., etc. And he gave props to Austin Aries from his quarterfinal match, his submission match with him a couple of weeks ago on Impact Wrestling. And after that, he decided to call out Magnus based on the subject that happened last week, which was that Magnus, when he dove off from outside the ring, he hurt his knee and went away because he couldn't wrestle at all. He couldn't compete based from that injury. So I like how they're working that as well throughout this entire segment. And because Angle questioned if Magnus had heart, dignity, and stuff like that. I like Magnus's comeback, his rebuttal, so to speak, where he talks about having heart and all these things about, not taking shortcuts, but going through matches hard and heavy and really going through not just this tournament, but in his career as a TNA superstar as well. So I thought that was a pretty interesting first segment on the show where they had that interaction between Kurt Angle and Magnus. And shortly after, they go through that process. Bobby Roode comes out and he talks about having heart as well. He brought up the Bound for Glory match he had with Kurt Angle back in 2011, where he tried to fight hard, going through that phase of I need to not take shortcuts, and being the guy that wants to be the honest and respectful kind of guy who goes through that hard and heavy match. And what happened? He lost to Kurt Angle at Bound for Glory that year. And so he's basically telling Magnus throughout that entire thing that he'll be the next world champion. And I like how he done it. I like that he brought up being the longest reigning world heavyweight champion and that match he had with Kurt Angle a couple of years ago. And he also told Magnus that you will never be a world heavyweight champion. Magnus got a little hot from that and almost wanted to attack Bobby Roode. Only Kurt Angle, kind of stopped him. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And basically, all Bobby Roode came. The whole idea of Bobby Roode coming out there is just to help out Magnus develop this character as a heel, telling him you'll never be the champion. You have to have that killer instinct and to turn on people to become the champion. So I like what he's doing with Magnus throughout that entire segment, and we'll probably get to see that probably in the final match, which I will give my thoughts on that later on this review. And shortly after, Jeff Hardy came out and told Bobby Roode that I'm reminding you have to go through me first. Let's get it on. Tables match. I thought it was a great, solid tables match. I like how in the first few minutes, it was wrestling, trying to wear down your opponent, and then get the table ready to have them go through the table. So I like, how they're building up this tables match. And what happened was that we saw Bobby Roode and Jeff Hardy go through the table in the same time. I thought it was a well, done, developed match where they had to have that part when they go to commercial and they go to the second half of the match. And here I'm thinking, okay, what's going to be the logical way to break this match up? I thought that was a great way to do it. Have both guys go through a table, and the referee decides, okay, who won? They had two refs out. The senior, they had two refs out. One guy says Bobby Roode won. Other guy says Jeff Hardy won. Earl Hebner comes out and decides to restart the match. And what happened was that Jeff Hardy won. Now, I expected Bobby Roode to win because he was the guy that will most likely, have that good quality match in the finals. Even though Jeff Hardy won as well, it would make more sense, wouldn't it, to have Bobby Roode win? But I like how they played on that twist. Bobby Roode, he was the favorite to win that match because Jeff Hardy was jobbing to him. But what happened was the opposite. Jeff Hardy won the match, and going back to the tables match, I like a couple of spots. I like that one spot where just absolutely amazing, where Jeff Hardy was going for the Swanton Bomb on Bobby Roode on the table, only to have Bobby Roode, crawl out from the table on the mat. Jeff Hardy goes over the table and hits Bobby Roode with the Swanton Bomb. Loved that moment. That moment was great. And overall, it was a good, solid opening match on TNA. Jeff Hardy won. And like I said, a lot of people expected Bobby Roode to win. Okay, so what's the logic of Jeff Hardy winning, going over Bobby Roode? Well, here I'm thinking is that, okay, Bobby Roode lost. Now, he could use this loss to sell it by selling it by costing Kurt Angle his match after and showing frustration that he lost his match. That would be a good way to go, and was I ever right? I will get to that also later on this review of TNA Impact Wrestling. Also on the show, we saw a backstage segment with EC3 says he will face a legend. And he was really, hyping this up as well. He mentioned that this legend was in the ring with Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, Bret the Hitman Hart. Who does he pick for his opponent? Earl Hebner, the referee. And here I'm thinking, oh God, this is going to be good, isn't it? And I thought it was a well done, thought up segment where Ethan Carter is just more of a jackass, a rich jackass, I think, in my opinion. Now, people may argue that, EC3 should be in the ring with other guys like Samoa Joe and, guys of that nature on TNA, but having this segment now on TNA, I thought that was pretty entertaining, to say the least. And throughout that entire thing, I like that Ethan Carter got to talk more on the microphone. He talked about Earl Hebner being the 99% of the working class, and he's the 1%er. He's the guy that is the nephew of Dixie Carter, and everything should be handed to him. That's his whole attitude and his whole character, and it really goes well with his gimmick as EC3. So I thought that whole thing was really well done. And the more he, took the heat and the more he was building up, that was really well as well. What happened was that Rockstar Spud brought out the referee for the match, Earl's son Brian Hebner, and it was just humiliation factor. I like that, and the more the more humiliated the referees got, the more of a rich jackass Ethan Carter was throughout that entire thing. I thought it was really good, and I like how in that segment, how he used his finger to cover Earl Hebner. He told him to lay down on his back, while Brian was counting the 1, 2, 3. I like how everyone sold that segment. I love how Earl did not want to lay down. I loved how Brian Hebner said I'm sorry to his father, and he 1, 2, 3 Ethan Carter for the win. And it was almost like they're one big happy family. They're really enjoying working this segment, and you can really feel that as well. And also that part where really Ethan Carter was dictating the match, telling the referees what to do. He was telling Brian Hebner to roll Earl Hebner out of the ring. He said stop. He scruffs him with his feet, and he told Brian Hebner to raise his hand. Everything in that segment worked pretty well. I thought it was well done. Also on the show, we saw a little backstage thing with Samuel Shaw and Christy Hemme. They were at a restaurant, and I thought it was another good segment to develop the Samuel Shaw character. And putting Christy Hemme in that story, I think, is good for business, because we need to see more of Christy Hemme, not just as a ring announcer, but putting her in a storyline where it just looks really good for everyone. Christy Hemme and Samuel Shaw. Samuel Shaw signs the receipt the waiter gave him. Christy goes off camera, and then you see Samuel Shaw kind of threaten the waiter. He says, if you ever look at my girl again, I'll kill you, stuff like that. And I'm curious to see, when he does make his in-ring debut, how they're going to portray him in his character development aspect. Killing people should not be the way to go into developing his American Psycho-like character when he's in the ring wrestling. But, what I like to see is like some sort of transformation. Okay, he's in the ring with a guy. They fight, good match. And then all of a sudden he kind of, because Christy Hemme is the announcer, the other guy kind of looks at her, and Samuel Shaw gets, real hot, real psycho, and then goes all out on his opponent. Something like that, I think, out of a Samuel Shaw match would actually look really good for his character. It would be a well-developed thing to throw in. So I think, the putting him in this gimmick so far is working for Samuel Shaw. Also, we saw a little backstage thing where Dixie Carter brings back the Feast or Fire briefcases, stuff like that. They got the world title, the tag team title. One's also a pink slip as well. Even though the camera panned on the superstars that were facing Dixie, I kind of seen some faces. I seen Norvera, Dewey Barnes, James Storm, and Chavo Guerrero. I got a feeling Chavo Guerrero is going to get the pink slip briefcase, because it just seemed like, they had a chance for Chavo and Hernandez to develop a feud, and they didn't follow through. So odds are, I think Chavo is going to get the boot on TNA, because right now it just feels like they don't know what to do with Chavo Guerrero and with Dewey Barnes and Nora Rivera. They're over with the fans right now. Give them the tag team title briefcase to go for the tag team titles, and I think that would, establish them as, the tag team champions when they do beat the Bromans. Speaking of the Bromans, they had a match as well in the tag team match. It was them with DJ Zima Iron versus Gunner and James Storm. Now, normally I like, certain things, nitpicking things I kind of don't like as well. I like that they have Zima Ion as their DJ. He fits right in. I love their entrance, the way Zima Ion presents them, and he does his little computer sounds. That's all well and good. But when Zima Ion does those computer sounds throughout that match, Just stop, please. You don't need to do that. You know, I get it. You're overdoing it. It adds to the ridiculousness of their characters. So, yes, sure, but I think that, you know, Zima I needs to tone down the sounds throughout the match because it kind of takes away from what's in the ring, and the fans need to focus on what's inside the ring and not what's outside. So, you know, little things like that, a little bit of an issue. But other than that, I like where they're going with this feud between James Storm and Gunner. Even though it's not happening yet, I like the build up to it. What happened was that well, Jesse was doing most of the work in that tag team match. So, you know, I thought, you know, there's a reason behind that. Okay, here's what happened. James Storm had Jesse pinned for the win, and then before the ref even counted 1, 2, 3, Robbie E came in, and Gunner in the same time, and Robbie E spit some sort of liquid, looked like beer or some sort of energy drink, to Gunner. He got pissed off. He started beating on Robbie E, shoved the referee, which cost him the match via disqualification, while James Storm had Jesse pinned. And Storm got a little hot from that. So, you know, they were going back and forth, you know. Why'd you do that? And I got pissed because Robbie E attacked me. So I shoved the ref. I got a little caught up in the moment. So I like how they're building up this possible rivalry feud between James Storm and Gunner. I think out of the two, I think that James Storm should be the guy that turns heel, because he's at a point in his career right now where he don't need to be built up as an established superstar. He's at a point now where he has to help the younger talent, and who better than Gunner to have Storm turn heel, to work with Gunner to put him over as a babyface. I think that would be the right way to go when it comes to this seed planting possible feud between the former tag team champions. Also on the show, we saw a little backstage segment with Sting and Rockstar Spud. I thought that was quite laughable, quite the entertaining little couple of minute thing where Sting was about to go in Kurt Angle's locker room. Rockstar Spud sees him. He's the eyes and ears now, and already I really can't stand him because he's out almost on every segment of the show, and I absolutely love it. And when he interacted with Sting, I really liked it. I liked that how he questioned, "Who are you?" "Oh, I didn't recognize you without your face paint. You're Sting." And I like how Sting brought up, "Have you listened to my albums?" You know, kind of confused with the other Sting. You know, the other Sting, that the guy with the other albums. You know, that guy Sting. Yeah, I like that little play on names. That was pretty interesting. And I also like Sting's impersonation of Dixie Carter as well. I thought that moment was quite laughable, quite the entertaining, and, you know, it was just one of those things, really. And he was like, what's going on around here? We have a little bit of Joker coming back as well. I thought that was pretty cool. And I like, you know, Sting's, you know, storyline as well, his sense of entitlement. And he could play that as well with Magnus, you know, as well. Even though they've had their interaction before, they could still renew it. And they don't have to go one-on-one. Just have a little backstage talking segment with Magnus, which did what happened on this show. And I thought that was quite interesting because it's another plot line to help develop the character of Magnus. And we also got to see Chris Sabin in a little speech, you know, he gave to the camera. He had his little phone. He's like Captain's log. He does his little Star Trek speech. I thought that was pretty interesting as well. Next week, he faces Austin Aries for the X Division Championship. And then we got to see another open challenge match from Gail Kim. She faced a diva by the known as Laura Dennis. She's actually known as Cherry Bomb in the Great Canadian Wrestling and Shimmer as well. The only issue I had with that match is that I think that Cherry Bomb, aka Laura Dennis, we never got to see her potential in the ring, what she can do in the ring. So it just felt like a jobber squash match where Gail Kim went over. I thought it was an okay match. It's just that the way that they're building up these open challenges bit by bit by bit, we should have seen that with Cherry Bomb. And like I said, we never got to see any offensive moves from her. And I think that it's almost time now where they should develop a storyline between Gail Kim and someone who goes over Gail Kim. It's almost that time now where someone catches Gail Kim off guard and gets a championship match. I'm hoping someone like Taylor Hendricks comes back and does that, but we'll see what happens in the weeks to come on TNA Impact Wrestling. And also after the match, we saw the post-match attack from Gail Kim again, and then Lady Tapa, and then ODB comes out and plays the hero in attacking Lady Tapa. They go at it, they go back and forth. She clotheslines Lady Tapa out the ring. I like that they're building Lady Tapa as well as a knockout on TNA, by putting her in a match with ODB, a well-established TNA knockout, where she's also at a point in her career where she will help the next Divas of Tomorrow go over. So I think that's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens with their feud, going forth, have a couple of matches, stuff like that. I can also see Cherry Bomb maybe coming back because of the post-match attack. She might want to get revenge. I think that could play out as well, but who knows yet. We'll see what happens next week on the show. Also, the last man standing match, Kurt Angle versus Magnus. This is a semi-final match. The winner will face Jeff Hardy. And here I'm thinking, okay, Jeff Hardy has already won his match. It wouldn't make sense for Kurt Angle to win, because Kurt Angle versus Jeff Hardy wouldn't make sense, because they're two guys that the fans just love to see. They put on good quality matches. So, and they're also two guys that really don't need to win a match. All I have to do is put the other guy over. But the way I look at it is that, okay, I knew Magnus was going to win because of the build-up to a possible heel turn. And he'll probably do that with Jeff Hardy in their final match to determine Dixie Carter's World Heavyweight Champion on TNA. And I actually enjoyed this match as well. It was actually a good wrestling match for a last man standing match. And what happened was that Bobby Roode came out and attacked Kurt Angle and cost him the match. I thought that was really good. I love how they used this tournament to build up the Bobby Roode and Kurt Angle story. I thought that was quite great on the part of TNA, without putting them in the final match, because that would signal an end to their feud. So I like how they didn't do that and used both of them to build up their own storyline. It's just that putting them into a tournament was a plot line to develop their feud. You get what I'm saying. So with that being said, I loved how TNA booked this tournament proper, well. Hopefully something good comes out of the final match. I for one would love to see Magnus win. This is what I would like to see. I would like to see something what Adam Cole done in Ring of Honor, where he won the World Heavyweight Championship, and he shakes hands with the guy. When he turns around, he kicks him in the head, or something along those lines, and then turns heel. That's how I would book this match. This Jeff Hardy versus Magnus. Have Magnus win the match. Good, heartfelt, good quality pay-per-view match between two guys. One that the fans love in Jeff Hardy, and who better to go over the guy that the fans love than Magnus. And I think that would be the right way to go, because Magnus can establish himself as a superstar facing Jeff Hardy. What I like to see is him having a heartfelt match, like I said, good quality, pay-per-view quality. After the match, they hug it out. They both raise their hands. Magnus is the champion, and then turns on him, just like that. Heel turn. That's how I would do it. So with that being said, I like to see where this. I like to see that happen, and have him establish himself as a heel more before AJ comes back, and have them have a stare down, something along those lines. And that wasn't the only thing that happened on the show before it closed. Dixie Carter was all giddy about getting her World Heavyweight Championship back. The package was about to be sent, we saw, flowers being sent to her, and she was like, what? No, I want the world title, not some flowers from some nobody. Trash these flowers. So, I thought that was pretty, interesting. And, we saw a couple of segments after that. The final segment on the show, after the last Man Standing match, I thought it was, 50-50. I thought that, when Dixie Carter was about to open the package, she's like, hurry, 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 open it, open it, open it. All that stuff I like. And I like when she opened it, she holds it up and she's like, well, this is not the World Heavyweight Championship. And she goes all in a rage. And the only issue I have was her reaction. It didn't come off very believable. I think she kind of overkilled her acting a bit. Her reaction to her pulling out what looked like the Globic Championship, a paper Globic Championship. And so, I thought, Dixie's acting in that segment was really off. But other than that, I like how they're developing the story with Dixie Carter and AJ. And then shortly after that, we got a new message brought to you by the fans and the family of AJ, where he's on the video and he talks to directly to Dixie and says that if you want the World Heavyweight Championship, you will have to come down here to Georgia to take it from me. And I gotta tell you, you're not going to be liked here in Georgia. There's going to be people coming after you. So I like what they're doing with the storyline between AJ Styles and Dixie Carter. It's another good plot line to the storyline between the guy who left the company with the world title against the boss, the head cheese in Dixie Carter. And that's what I enjoy about TNA, and this is something WWE, like I said, should have done with CM Punk. So in this case, TNA is actually developing the story the right and proper way. And there you have it. That was my review of TNA Impact Wrestling from Orlando, Florida. For the MRB Wrestling Review Show, I am Mike McRock Wilson. And to all you MRBers watching, get plenty of rest and always do your best.